Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. People say trust breaks slowly. They're wrong. Sometimes it shatters in one ordinary moment, like the vibration of a phone you were never meant to hear. I'm Lucas Reed, 34, owner of a small construction firm in Denver. My wife, Amber, worked in corporate communications, sleek, confident, always one step ahead. From the outside, we looked like the kind of couple everyone wanted to be. But behind closed doors, something was off, something small enough to ignore at first, until it started echoing through every conversation. Amber had this habit lately, keeping her phone face down, turning off notifications to stay focused. Her excuses made sense until the details stopped making sense with them. Late meetings that ended too late. Business trips that weren't listed on her company calendar. Laughter on calls that didn't sound like client talk. For weeks, I tried to convince myself I was imagining it. After all, she was my wife. The woman who used to fall asleep on my chest every night whispering about the kids we'd have someday. But love can blind a man long enough for betrayal to make itself at home. That Friday started normal. She came down the stairs in a crisp beige blazer, heels clicking against the hardwood floor. Big day. I asked, buttering toast. She smiled, too softly. Yeah, team seminar at the Ridgeway Hotel. Just overnight. You'll survive without me. Barely, I teased. But something about her eyes, too much sparkle, not enough warmth, made me uneasy. She kissed my cheek, grabbed her bag, and said, "Don't wait up, Lucas. My phone might die, so don't freak out if I go quiet." Her phone. Always the phone. I watched her leave, the car pulling out of the driveway, the taillights fading into the morning haze. Something told me to follow. I didn't. Instead, I went to work, poured concrete, signed contracts, smiled for clients, pretending my life wasn't quietly falling apart. By evening, I couldn't shake the thought. She'd said her phone might die, but I'd seen her plug it in that morning. Amber was the kind of woman who carried two chargers, one for the car, one for her purse. Around 9:30 p.m., curiosity turned into instinct. I looked up the Ridgeway Hotel and called the front desk. "Hi, this is Lucas Reed. My wife checked in earlier, Amber Reed. Could you connect me to her room?" "Of course, sir," the receptionist said cheerfully. One moment. A soft click, then a dial tone, then ringing. But the sound wasn't faint or distant. It was clear, near, like she was right beside the phone. And then I heard it, her ringtone. The same melody she'd once called our song. My pulse kicked hard. I waited. The ringing stopped. No answer. 10 seconds later, my phone buzzed with a message. "Battery's dying. Don't panic, okay?" The same excuse. The same calm, perfect lie. I didn't reply. Instead, I dialed her number again. And this time, someone picked up. A man's voice answered, muffled but audible over music. "Hello." He froze when I spoke. "Who is this?" A click. The line went dead. 5 minutes later, another call came, from an unknown number. Amber's voice, trembling. "Lucas, please pick up, please." I didn't, because in that silence, I finally realized something. The truth doesn't need proof when your instincts have already screamed it loud enough. That was the night Lucas Reed stopped being the trusting husband and started becoming something else entirely. Sleep didn't come that night. The ceiling fan hummed above me, like a clock ticking towards something inevitable. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that man's voice again, that easy confidence in the way he said hello, like he'd answered that phone before. By morning, the ache in my chest had turned into quiet determination. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to shout. No, real revenge required precision. Amber texted at 8:07 a.m. Morning. Workshop running late. I'll probably stay another night. Love you. Love you. I stared at those two words, wondering how many times she'd written them after kissing someone else. I decided to pay the Ridgeway Hotel a visit myself. 2 hours later, I was in my truck, driving north on the I-25. The sky hung low, gray and cold. Perfect weather for betrayal to finish writing its story. When I reached the hotel, I didn't walk in through the main entrance. I parked near the back loading dock where delivery trucks came in, slipped on my old construction jacket, and entered through the side door. Years in the trade had taught me one thing. If you walk like you belong, no one questions you. The lobby smelled of citrus and expensive lies. Guests in tailored suits chatted over coffee, and the sound of laughter drifted from the lounge. I scanned the front desk. The receptionist was the same voice from last night, polite, young, unsuspecting. I waited until she turned to answer the phone, then glanced at the guest registry on her counter. And there it was. Amber Reed, room 512. My heart hammered, but my face stayed calm. I took the elevator halfway up and climbed the rest by stairs. My hand brushed the railing, each step heavier than the last. When I reached the 5th floor, I slowed my breathing, checked the hall camera, and waited for a housekeeper to roll by. She smiled politely. "Need something, sir?" "Actually, yeah," I said, lowering my voice. "My wife's inside 512. Locked herself out again. Mind if I grab the spare? She's gonna kill me if she's late to her seminar." She hesitated, then laughed. "Happens to my husband, too. Here." She handed me the MasterCard. I thanked her, heart pounding. When the door clicked open, the air smelled like cheap champagne and guilt. The room was dim, curtains drawn, bed unmade. On the dresser sat 2 glasses, lipstick on one rim, cologne clinging to the other. And there, beside the TV, was Amber's phone, plugged in and fully charged. So much for battery dying. My hand trembled, but not with sadness, with clarity. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was math. Lies stacked on lies until the sum became truth. I took a slow look around, noting every detail, the mail jacket on the chair, the extra toothbrush by the sink. But I didn't wait for confrontation. No, that would give her control of the story. I needed to write the ending my way. Before leaving, I placed her phone carefully back on the nightstand and turned on the voice recorder app. Then I whispered, "You want a story, Amber? Here's one you'll never forget." I left and returned home without a sound. That night, I didn't call her. I didn't text. I let the silence do the work. By 10 p.m., the front door opened quietly. She stepped in wearing the same blazer from Friday, a fake yawn escaping her lips. "Hey, babe, you're still up." I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her, really looked. She froze. "What?" "Nothing," I said, smiling faintly. "You smell different." "What's that scent?" Her pulse stuttered. "Just hotel soap." "Right," I murmured. "Ridgeway, right?" Her eyes flickered. "Yeah, I told you that." "You did." I leaned back in the chair, tapping my finger on the table. Strange, though. They must have changed their room policy. Thought they didn't allow double occupancy for seminars. The blood drained from her face. I could have shouted, could have thrown the truth in her face and watched it break her. But revenge deserved patience. "Lucas," she said quietly, "you're acting weird." "Am I?" I tilted my head. "I just wanted to make sure your phone didn't die again." She blinked fast. "What?" "I mean, it's lucky really," I continued. "Because when I called the front desk last night, they said they'd ring your room, and wouldn't you know it, I heard our song playing right through the receiver." Amber's lips parted, eyes wide. "You called." "I did," I said evenly. "But a man answered first. You might want to remind your boss not to pick up next time." Her hand shook. "Lucas, it's not what you think." I stood up, cutting her off gently. "Oh, I know exactly what it is. And you know what's funny? You keep underestimating me. You think I'll yell or beg, but I won't. I'm going to let you hang yourself with your own truth." She swallowed hard. "Please, just listen." "I have," I said softly. "Every word, in fact." And I watched realization dawn in her eyes, the recorder. The look that followed was worth every sleepless night. She stepped closer. "You recorded everything." Her mouth trembled, her voice cracking. "You can't." "Oh, I can," I interrupted, calm as ice. "Because while you were busy lying, I was busy protecting myself. You see, tomorrow morning, your HR team will get an anonymous email with your little seminar getaway, along with your boss's voice on tape." Amber's knees weakened. "You wouldn't ruin me like that." I gave her the same gentle smile she'd given me countless times before. "No, Amber, you did that yourself." Then I walked out of the room, leaving her standing there, caught between fear and the sudden understanding that some good men don't scream when betrayed. They plan. Amber didn't come to bed that night. I heard the faint creak of the guest room door closing sometime after midnight, followed by a muffled sob. For years, that sound, her crying, would have broken me. But not this time. This time, I let it echo. The next morning, the house felt strange. Too quiet, too polite. She moved carefully around me, brewing coffee like an actress rehearsing lines, trying to seem normal. Her eyes were red, her voice trembling. "Morning," she said softly, sliding my mug across the counter. I took it, sipped, and kept my tone even. "You sleep okay?" Her nod was small. "Barely. We need to talk, Lucas." "Later," I said, picking up my keys. "I've got a site meeting." She reached out, fingers brushing my sleeve. "Please, just let me explain." "Not yet," I said. "You'll get a chance. But first, I'm giving you exactly what you gave me." Her brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" "Uncertainty," I replied quietly, walking out the door. At work, my crew joked and hammered away as if my world hadn't cracked in half. But while I inspected beams and blueprints, my mind was constructing something far more deliberate, a blueprint for consequence. Amber thought I'd send that recording straight to her company. That's what she feared most. But that wasn't my plan. I didn't want to ruin her publicly. I wanted her to feel what she'd made me feel. Invisible. Over the next week, I became a ghost in our home. I was polite, even kind. I cooked dinner, asked about her day, smiled when she spoke, but every word was empty, every glance calculated. She apologized over and over, tears turning into desperate affection. But love, once cracked, doesn't heal. It reshapes into something colder. One evening, she came home early, eyes puffy but determined. "I ended it," she said, voice trembling. "With him. I told my boss everything's over." I glanced up from my laptop. "That must have been hard." "It was," she whispered. "He was manipulating me, Lucas. I thought it was harmless at first." "It wasn't." I stared at her. "You cheated. You lied. Don't call that manipulation. It's choice." She flinched. "You're right. I made a choice. And I regret it more than anything." Her tears came freely then, but I didn't move to comfort her. "Not this time." I simply stood and said, "Regret doesn't rebuild trust. It just fills the silence while you wait for forgiveness you may never get." That night, I packed a bag, but not to leave. I went to my brother Aaron's place across town and asked him to help me with a favor. Aaron's a lawyer, sharp and quiet, the kind who doesn't ask why until he's certain he should. When I showed him the recording, he leaned back in his chair. "You could bury them both with this," he said. "I don't want to bury them," I replied. "I just want to know I could." He nodded slowly. "Leverage." "Exactly." Together, we drafted something simple, a legal notice outlining emotional misconduct between Amber and her superior, accompanied by a confidentiality clause. If her boss ever retaliated or she tried to twist the story, I'd forward it to his company's board. It wasn't revenge through chaos. It was revenge through control. 2 weeks later, I asked her to meet me at our favorite cafe, the same place where I proposed 5 years ago. She arrived nervously, clutching her purse like a shield. "You wanted to talk?" I nodded. "Yeah, about us." Her eyes glimmered with faint hope. "Are you saying we can fix this?" "Maybe," I said calmly. "But first, there's something you should know." I slid an envelope across the table. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside was a printout of the confidentiality agreement and a copy of the hotel bill signed under her name. She looked up, panic flooding her face. "What is this?" "Insurance," I said softly. "For both of us." Her lips parted. You wouldn't." "No," I interrupted. "I won't. Unless you ever try to paint yourself as the victim. This isn't about punishment, Amber. It's about closure." Her eyes welled. "You're ending us." "I'm freeing myself," I said. "There's a difference." She whispered, "I still love you, Lucas." I smiled sadly. "Maybe you do. But you love someone else enough to risk everything." "I'm just collecting what's left of my dignity." Silence stretched between us, heavy but final. She didn't argue again. She signed the papers with shaking hands. As we stood to leave, she asked quietly, "So that's it?" "Almost," I said, glancing at her one last time. "You'll see the final part tomorrow." That night, I returned home alone. I sat in the same kitchen where she'd once laughed about burning toast and dreamed about a family. Then I pulled out my laptop and opened a new website draft, one I'd been designing for weeks. Read restoration projects. A fresh start for my company, a new branch opening in another state. The timing wasn't random. The next morning, Amber's boss would receive a resignation letter she'd written. Except, she didn't know yet that she'd be moving with me to sign it in front of his HR department. That was my revenge. Not humiliation, not scandal, but the weight of truth dropped exactly where it belonged. When dawn came, I drove to her office parking lot and waited. Her boss stepped out first, adjusting his tie, looking smug. Then he froze as I stepped from my truck. "Lucas," he said, startled. "You shouldn't." I handed him the sealed envelope. "You should read this before your morning meeting." Then I looked at Amber, who'd just arrived. "You wanted closure," I said quietly. "Here it is." As I walked away, I didn't need to look back. The silence behind me said enough. The sound of two people finally realizing the game was over and that I had rewritten the ending. It's strange how peace feels heavier than pain when it finally arrives. For months, I had lived in a storm. Every thought, every heartbeat tangled in suspicion, anger, and disbelief. But the day after that confrontation outside Amber's office, there was nothing left. No shouting, no more lies, just quiet. Amber resigned the following morning. I didn't watch it happen, but her HR director called to confirm that the matter was closed privately and professionally. I thanked him and ended the call, knowing that chapter was sealed. I hadn't destroyed her career. I'd just shown her that deceit has gravity. That evening, I returned home to gather the rest of my things. She was there, sitting at the kitchen table with an envelope in front of her. Her eyes were swollen, her voice small. "I signed the divorce papers," she said. I nodded. "Good." She swallowed hard. "You really meant it, didn't you? You're done." "I was done the moment you made me question my own sanity," I replied. My tone wasn't angry. It was steady, the way a door sounds when it closes for the last time. She looked up, desperate. "I know you'll never forgive me, but—" "Lucas, I want you to know I'm sorry. Not just for the cheating, for making you doubt who you were. You didn't deserve that." I exhaled, feeling the weight of those words. No one ever deserves betrayal. But sometimes, people need to lose what's real before they realize what they had. She reached across the table, hesitating. "Was I ever real to you?" I met her eyes. "You were, until you weren't." Her tears fell silently as I picked up my keys. I didn't stay to comfort her this time. Mercy wasn't part of the lesson. 3 months passed. I moved into a smaller apartment across town, closer to my new office. Work became my therapy. The smell of sawdust, the rhythm of construction, the satisfaction of rebuilding something from ruin, it all mirrored my life. Every morning, I'd grab coffee from the same cafe where we'd once shared plans for a dream home. The barista, Maya, eventually learned my order: black coffee, 2 sugars. She had a calm kindness about her, the sort that doesn't pry but still sees right through you. One morning, she smiled and said, "You look lighter lately." I chuckled. "Guess I'm learning how to let go of things that were never mine." She nodded knowingly. Sometimes, peace isn't found, it's built. Those words stuck with me. I didn't dive into anything new romantically. I wasn't ready, and that was okay. I was rebuilding not just my trust in others, but in myself. I'd started journaling again, running before sunrise, even volunteering on weekends for local home repairs. It felt good to help people rebuild what they'd lost, even if they didn't know how much I understood that feeling. Then, one Friday evening, I received a letter. Handwritten. No return address, but the handwriting was familiar. Amber's. Inside, just one line. "Thank you for not destroying me. You taught me that silence can be louder than revenge." I folded the letter and placed it in my desk drawer, not out of sentiment, but as a reminder. Not all revenge is fire and fury. Sometimes, it's restraint. Sometimes, it's choosing dignity over destruction. I walked to the window, watching the Denver skyline glow gold under the fading sun. The world looked different now. Cleaner, sharper, more real. For the first time in a long while, I smiled. Not because I'd won, but because I'd finally stopped fighting battles that weren't worth my peace. And in that quiet, I realized something simple but true. The best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's proving yourself right.